What is up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Happy Halloween. Welcome to the Tuesday Lego stream. Let's build the UCS Republic Gunship. I hope everybody is feeling spooky and... I was gonna say like spooky and naughty, but it was like, that's a little much. So, hope everybody's feeling spooky-ooky. Tonight, I have one of my really good friends here with me, Joey from KRYPTON to ALDERAAN. Joey, are you feeling spooky and ooky?
Feeling spooky and naughty.
Oh, okay, good.
How about that?
I was gonna ask that, but then I was like, I don't know what I'm trying to get at with this spooky and naughty thing. I guess that's just where my mind is tonight. But yeah, I'm really happy you're here. I was checking back in the archives, and it's been... Our last time we collaborated on something and put it out was December 7th of 2022. Yeah, how do you feel about that?
That is sad to hear. I guess that must have been Andor, right? So it's A, sad that you and I haven't collaborated, and B, it's been that long since Andor. Sorry, Ted, if you're here, but you know, it's Andor, yeah, that is, man, time in a COVID world has just not stopped being weird, I guess.
I completely agree. And well, we're changing it tonight, so cheers to that. I just put lotion all over my hands and I almost dropped my drink all over my desk a second ago. So cheers. Hi Andrew. Hi Darth Patty, not me being like, oh hi Joey, I see you in the chat. Star Wars Sublight. Yeah, you know, I got a little something on my face here. Maybe I was doing something a little spooky and naughty, and I got a little bit of blood on my face, you know.
Yep. I'm more of those. I don't know. I for anyone who saw my Instagram story about Scotty's stream tonight, I said I was coming as someone who has their shit together. So here I am in whatever this is.
Aren't we all?
I put on my best.
Well, you look great, and that's
Thanks.
what matters. Okay, well, let's get to what everybody is here for. Not us, but for the Legos. All right, so I guess what I'm building today is like the
scariest part of the gunship.
The pilots? Where the pilots sit? Is it the scary part? Sure. You're right. It's Halloween. It's really scary. It's spooky, ooky. And I'm going to move this monstrosity out of the way. I'm going to get the mouse out of the frame because nobody cares about that. Well, while I get started, what is everybody doing today for Halloween? Or what has everybody done? I know it's 9 o'clock for us, but we have no kids, so the party's just starting. But what's everybody else gotten into tonight? And Joey, what have you been up to celebrate Halloween so far?
This is the only way I've celebrated Halloween so far. Even this year, it kind of just got away from me a little bit, which is very sad. But I haven't really even, like, usually this is the time of year that I dedicate time to sitting down and watching scary movies, because I love scary movies, but no one else in my life likes scary movies, so I have to wait for everyone else to go away.
I feel your pain.
This hasn't happened. So, yeah, we handed out some candy here earlier, and that's about it.
You're better than me, because I'm like, oop, nope, porch light off. Well, I never have my porch light on, to be honest, because we have like they sell them like this is gonna be blasphemous, but they sell them during Christmas, and it's the like ones that like, they're not flickery, but they're supposed to look like old-timey flame lights, and right. So I have those, but they actually don't do shit. So like if I'm trying to see who's at my front door, I can't tell. So it's purely for aesthetic purposes, but we never have them on unless we have like Christmas lights out. So on top of that, I'm like, oh, I don't want no kids coming to my door. I got a stream to do. We got Legos to build here. Can't be distracted.
Yeah. How have you celebrated Halloween today and otherwise this Halloween season, Scotty?
I've done a handful of movie nights with some friends, but it was more like in the build-up. This past weekend, I didn't really do anything spooky. I did go to one of my friends' houses. I drank wine. I stayed up way too late. I was supposed to go to a party the next day, but I felt like shit. So, we just slept all day. So that was really, really fun. You know, a nice fun Sunday. But, no, what did we watch? We watched The Lighthouse, which I had seen before, which is really great. But I was like, I really want to rewatch The Lighthouse. Have you seen The Lighthouse with like Robert Pattinson, Willem Dafoe?
I have not.
Okay, well, as long as you can handle a lot of a like dialogue-heavy movie, totally check it out. It's really good. We watched the new Insidious: The Red Door.
Oh, nice.
I was a brat, and I was like, oh, I feel like I need to watch the other movies. Like, I'm not caught up. So, like, had I known we were watching this, I would have looked up, like, a YouTube, like, recap on the Insidious series. And so my friend pulled up. They were like, well, a 5-minute recap, dude? And I was like, that's perfect. So, we all watched a 5-minute recap. And that was just because, like I said, I'm a brat. But, like, I want to go into a movie knowing what I'm supposed to expect. I did find out that I've seen the 2 movies that really made a difference, which is the first and the second one. The others were more like prequels, I guess, so, you know. And then what else did we watch? Oh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, which I thought was kind of mid. Have you seen it?
Really? Yes, I have. It's not really my jam, but from what I know about you and kind of, I think your love for slasher films, that seems like it would check some boxes.
I thought the same thing, and that's why I was like, damn, this is kind of mid. Like, yeah, I love slashers. My favorite is Halloween. Mm-hmm. I love Michael Myers. I have a poster of him in my living room. I talk about it all the time because I'm obsessed. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre did not do it for me. Sorry, Leatherface. I heard...
Sorry, Leatherface.
Sorry, buddy. I heard that I guess the second one's better, and there's like a new, like a reboot or a remake or something that's good, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think Crystal on one of your last LEGO streams was talking about the Rob Zombie Halloween reboot.
Oh, yeah, mm-hmm.
That a thing? And then, but I think Rob Zombie also did Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot. I might be making all of this up. Anyone in the chat who knows, that's something I don't get to say a lot as someone who does not stream.
Yeah, let us know in the chat.
Anyone
it's
in
fun.
the chat, yeah. But anyway, yeah, that is surprising to me. I'm not really a big fan of slashers, but I really love being scared.
Same.
So those are the movies that I go for. I love, like, I don't know, very eerie, scary, jump scares type stuff. I'm gonna be moving around a lot. I'm not used to streams, and B, I have this kitten who lives in my room and is being a little monster tonight. Appropriately for Halloween, he's being a bit of a monster, so I keep having to throw him off my lap.
No, I should have set up a camera for him. We should have got a kitten cam. Do you have a name yet?
Damn.
Did you name him yet?
I did. We did. Kipo.
Kipo. That's...
Anyone in the chat watch Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts? It's a wonderful show. It's a animated show. It's very good. I enjoyed it a lot, and so
I did not.
After that.
But that's still that's a cute name. I really enjoy when people name their animals off of like some obscure like pop culture thing that they enjoy. That's always fun. I know my friend whose house I was actually on Sunday, he named his cat Killua from some anime that everybody I know watches, which name I can't think of off the top of my head. But it's like cute little things like that. I'm looking at the chat here too. Star Wars Sublight, did you just notice that my mat is from Andor? That's funny, we started the stream talking about Andor and now it's like, yeah, I love this mat too. It's Aldani with the Eye of Aldani. It's in like my favorite color scheme, which is like greens and blues. Other than black, other than black, greens and blues. So thank you so much. Austin's getting pizza. I wish I was having a pizza. You know what I love and I wish that I could get, but I can't because I'm vegan? Those little... Pizza? Well, yes, but... delivery that's not super expensive, but more specific to the holiday. You know, when they make the pizza that's supposed to be like a pumpkin face and it's just like with the pepperonis. I want one of those.
I consider myself very knowledgeable on pizza, and I'm not familiar with this trend.
It's a thing.
Yeah, love it.
Oh no, I'm already missing pieces. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Darth Patty.
I don't know if you've done this on the other streams. Listen, I've watched them. I've had a long couple of weeks.
Did you watch them in preparation?
Well, I watched them both. I guess they ended up being in preparation, but not necessarily in preparation to this. But I was curious if you've asked the chat what their favorite Halloween movies or scary movies are. That question also goes for you. I think besides Halloween, we know that Halloween is your favorite, but what other maybe top tier scary movies or horror movies or Halloween movies, whatever?
Great question. Other than Halloween, I really, really, really enjoy Us by Jordan Peele, which I feel like I've talked about, but I love that movie. The twist, like, ending, I'm not going to say any spoilers, but it's just so good. That's probably the second one that I would say. And I have a shirt. I have a Us shirt too, which I've worn on the channel before. I try to collect shirts by Wrecking Fountain, this like horror brand. They do like Japanese text and shit.
Cool.
I wear it all the time. Like, go look at any of my YouTube videos, and if I'm wearing something brightly colored with Japanese text, it's probably Wrecking Fountain. I'm trying to think if I have any other horror tees from them.
Oh man, Austin stole my joke. I was gonna say The Rise of Skywalker.
Honestly, for those who have seen The Rise of Skywalker, even if you've just seen it once or like 3 times like me, when I was doing clips for my top 10 scariest aspects of Star Wars video, there was lots of Rise of Skywalker clips because it's pretty dark. I'd consider it a bit of a, not a horror movie, but there's definitely horror elements. Like, one of the big things I talked about was body horror, and like Palpatine in that movie's pretty body horror, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, we joked about it before we went live, but like, he's decaying, his hands, like, his bones are coming through. My hands before I put on lotion.
Yeah, you know, I don't know, I've talked about like how George Lucas was influenced, who he was influenced by, and what sort of genres influenced him in making Star Wars. But the horror thing, I think, rarely comes up, even though there's like
a lot
terrifying creatures and this kind of mystical, I don't know, like mystical / paranormal stuff I always attribute to some level of horror as well. And there's a lot of that wrapped up in there, and obviously like the dark colors and the reds and stuff.
Good old red.
Evil. Old red.
Some people would say that Star Wars is evil, especially as of late, but we're not those people.
Yeah. Boo to those people. Yeah. Silence of the Lambs. That is actually, I've been asking this question a lot this Halloween season. I think mostly because I haven't been able to sit down and watch horror movies, and Silence of the Lambs has come up quite a bit, Darth Patty. So might be one I have not seen for many years, and in fact have been told that I misremember some stuff. So definitely one that I might have to revisit at some point. But for some reason in my mind, I was corrected about this the other day, because I remember that Hannibal and Clarice end up having a romantic relationship and something like that at the
Ow,
very
ow.
end of the entire.
Spooky, spooky and naughty.
Maybe that actually exists somewhere in the text, or maybe I've written my own fan fiction, pretty unhealthy fan fiction there. Maybe
Something else was taken over.
Headcanon. Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck?
I really I really like this idea of like doing these Star Wars type things around Halloween, of like, what if Star Wars did a scary thing, or what are the scary elements of Star Wars? Chase, aka That Gay Jedi, although I guess that's not their YouTube handle anymore.
Did they change it?
I think so, yeah. I think it's Cyber Chase or something. Anyway, last year they did like a write-in live stream, or a write-in show where people like wrote in different ideas for spooky Star Wars stuff, which was super cool, and they read them on the stream, and or whatever it was, the YouTube video. That was super cool. It was nice. It was neat to see like
other people's
people
ideas
kind of writing in with their own like fan fiction of horror. There, obviously there was like Night Sister stuff and all that stuff that lends itself very well to the horror genre within Star Wars. But so this was all leading up to a question that I had for you. I am not good at live streams. If Royce and I were recording Krypton to Alderaan and I went on that whole thing, it would get cut out in the edit. This is why we don't do live streams. Royce and I talk about it every once in a while, and we're like, we edit too much. We don't have the capacity to do live streams. We vamp too much. But anyway.
That's what live streams are for, honestly. We just babble. And some people find it entertaining, I guess. Ooh, hold on. Austin in the chat saying, who's popping their pussy for Halloween? Me.
Hi, Crystal. Happy Halloween.
Oh, don't.
Where's the eyeliner, Scotty?
On a washcloth in my bathroom. There's still a little bit of it around my eyes. You probably just can't tell. But I tried really hard to get it off.
I feel like you could have hung the washcloth in your background there. It could have been a nice spooky element to your background.
Yeah, with double the eye makeup that I put on before this little blood splatter look. Yeah, it would have been real spooky for me. It would haunt me.
PTSD kind of way. Yeah.
For sure.
But I had a question for you. Oh, that was it. Oh man. I loved your video. That was all to say that I loved your video about like the scary moments in Star Wars. But I wanted to ask like what you would do if you're given the reins. I know that can kind of be a weird thing, but like what would you want to see as like a truly, like if a horror director got a Star Wars, or like Star Wars Visions volume, what would you want it to be?
Well, it's funny because when I was kind of compiling things that were already Star Wars and that were spooky, on top of like the stuff that I put in my video, I was like, let me think of other things, because like I was reading the Star Wars Dark Legends book, which is an anthology book with just like scary myths they're not. You know what I'm talking about?
I love the look of that book. Every time you post a story about it, I'm like, I should get that book just because I love the way it looks.
You should. It's really good. I was debating about putting out a ranking video ranking the stories, and I have ranked them. I just didn't have time, unfortunately. I decided to be social instead and leave the house because, you know, that's important. And I was like, I stay home all weekend, I work on this review, or I go out and be social. And I was like, my mental health would like if I went out and be social. So next year, needless to say,
away with Dark Disciple, you know.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Joey, we're not bringing up Dark Disciple today. That's there. You know
that's
what?
The real horror element of Scotty Holliday's channel.
Honestly, though, there is some spooky stuff in Dark Disciple. I'm not gonna lie. Dathomir in general, Night Sisters, like you can't not have spooky with them. I think one of my favorite things is like the Sleeper, which is like this creature they use as like a rite of passage where they have to like go underwater. It's really crazy. But anyways, let me get back to your original question instead of babbling about Dark Disciple, because you know I could go on for hours.
That's what I do.
I think, like, kind of, you already mentioned it, I'd probably go the slasher route. And it's funny because I really loved the slasher vibes in Obi-Wan Kenobi with Vader stalking him in that 3rd episode. And part of me would kind of want something like that, especially with the Sith Lord. It doesn't have to be Vader specifically. Though, spoiler alert, my favorite Dark Legends story is the one that has Vader in it. Which I was not expecting. I thought that was going to be my least favorite. But, yeah, I won't say anything else about it, but yeah. The Vader story was really good. So yeah, probably some kind of Sith Lord slasher, which that just has a ring to it. A Sith slasher.
Sith Lord slasher? I think I'm going to grab the Instagram handle right now, actually.
That'll be my new horror channel for me, you, Crystal, Andrew, and like the 6 other people that like Star Wars and horror. You know, the 6 of us that cross over.
Yeah.
What about you, though?
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is gonna be a basic thing to say, but I really love Vader, and I love that what you just said, like those elements, especially in Obi-Wan Kenobi, when it's like night and he's walking down the street, like
just walking
on the prowl.
Mm-hmm.
But then also when he's like a force of nature, when he's like walking through the blast doors going after Reva. That was her name, right?
Yeah.
Reva. Yeah, and he's just like a complete and utter force. You can feel the gravity of his movements. Like it's the same kind of stuff you can feel with Michael Myers, right? When he's coming at Jamie Lee Curtis or
Laurie Strode.
There is a, like, he's on a trajectory. I love that feeling.
Same.
So I would really love the same. It's interesting, like, could you have a slasher with a lightsaber? Does blood need to be part of a slasher?
I don't think so.
All right, cool.
Because if you keep in mind, like, a lot of the 80s slashers that came out after Halloween, and I sound like such a snooty person being like, well, Halloween really revitalized the slasher genre and made it what it is. I love that. But, like, it wasn't super gory, it wasn't super bloody, and that was the big thing, is everybody was trying to one-up when it came to these slashers, and so that's when they started adding the blood and the gore and these, like, crazy kills. So, I don't think you need the blood and the gore for it to be a slasher and be a good one. I mean, if Darth Vader were to come up behind somebody and stab them through the back of their head and it came out their eye with his lightsaber,
jeez.
Right? Think about that. Think about that visual. And, like, that would be real scary, very slasher. But you don't... it'll cauterize his eye hole, so maybe he can, whoever he stabs will live. But that's besides the point. But it would still be, like, the visual of it would be really cool. What did I fuck up?
Oh, you gotta put that piece... There you go. Also, Crystal complimented me on my question. Thank you, Crystal. The rest of the chat, all of you in the chat, I'm not used to live streams, so, but I'm consuming alcohol, so I feel like I'll get more relaxed in this if I seem less tense as time goes on here.
Joey, there's a no alcohol policy on a Scotty Holiday stream.
It's too late, and you invited me, so this is the way it has to go.
Oh no, my lotion is working against me, trying to get this off. Ah! Oh my god, I'm gonna...
Gotta use your teeth.
I don't want to.
Pull a slasher.
Oh, haha, I got it. Not pull a slasher. If I pulled a slasher, the Lego would rip my teeth out of my mouth. Let's be honest. Honestly, I feel like I saw something. Ooh, Star Wars Sublight said General Grievous slasher flick. That would be really good.
Yeah.
He would be obviously not a Sith, but definitely could lend himself to the slasher genre. Plus, he's got kind of like Crystal had mentioned. I saw that she just watched Friday the 13th for the first time. Kind of that like deformed like thing, because you know Jason's like, I don't know if like the amoeba in the lake fucked him up or what, but he's like real nasty looking too. Whereas like, it's funny, I was getting clips for my, why do I always forget the name of the video? My top 10 scariest aspects of Star Wars. And I put a clip in there when, from the Lair of Grievous episode, where it's got Kit Fisto and his Padawan, you know, and they're in Grievous's lair. Do you remember which episode I'm talking about? If not, it's fine. I'll just nerd out about it myself.
Yes, I have yes, I do. I have a little bit. I remember a little bit of it.
Well, the shadowing in the episode is horrible, so if you go back and watch it, just prepare yourself. Regardless.
Yeah, that was an early one. That was
season 2.
An early one, right?
Season 2.
Yeah, so like they hadn't really hit the mark of
no.
making the animation better.
No, not at all. But
the amoeba in the lake, Crystal says.
Literally the amoeba in the lake. But there's a scene where, because Grievous gets his legs cut off, so he's got his little droid person helping him, and the droid goes to pull his mask off, and as he's like pulling the mask off of Grievous's flesh, like Grievous gets like visibly shaky, kind of like uncomfortable, and then of course, you know, we cut to another scene. But I'm like, I want to know, like, because that's the big thing with your Michael Myers, with your Jason, these characters that wear masks. Like the big thing is like, we need to see what they look like under the mask, and Grievous would be great for that Star Wars sublight, because I imagine that Grievous underneath his mask is almost like if you were to take maybe, this is gonna be gore, straight up gore, but like you take off his top layer of skin, so it's just all like muscle underneath, and that's kind of like what's underneath his mask. That's kind of what I imagine. So just imagine something like that happening. That would be
gross.
Right? But I'd love it, because I guess I love gore.
Yeah. It's always been the thing with me in horror. I've never loved gore, but like I said, I do like being scared. It's an unhealthy relationship with it all, but for some reason there is comfort in that for me. I also really love like General Grievous lore.
Yes.
So any more content there, I would just be feral over. So I'm all about that. And also like Maul. Spider Legs Maul kind of stuff.
Ooh, like Spider Leg Maul. Very creepy, but very good. Honestly, I think we're onto something with this Sith Lord slasher shit, because I think there could be some money to be made behind that. But
I think that the best that Star Wars has done with horror, in my opinion, was this Zillow Beast episode of The Bad Batch. Like, it started off like Alien with one like tactical trooper. What are they called? The commandos in the down spaceship, and it's like the weird alien thing. It was good. I remember when Royce and I talked about it, it was like, this is Alien, this is like their horror episode, and it was so well done. It was so eerie and so creepy. I also love creature features. It's where I started to get into all of this stuff, so that really like connects with me a lot. But like for an animated show, I think that's like the best on screen, in my opinion, that Star Wars has done with horror elements.
Yeah, it was a very good one too, and it's funny I'm sitting here. Let me point out, if y'all haven't already, please make sure you go follow KRYPTON to ALDERAAN, because not only are they a great podcast, but Joey was the first person to ever have did my podcasting debut, which I don't know why, but I appreciate you so much for it.
Wow.
You took a chance.
I don't think I realized that I was your first, but that's a great little milestone that we have there. That's awesome.
You were my first.
Nice.
But yeah, so make sure you...
and naughty.
Spooky and naughty. Make sure y'all go follow KRYPTON to ALDERAAN.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I did not do that myself because...
Oh, you'll have a chance at the end.
Do live streams.
You'll have a chance at the end, don't worry. And all the links are in the description. And you're tagged in the title. You can tag people in the title now. So I'm trying that out to make it easier. That way everybody knows who everybody is. But after plugging you, I have to plug myself. And specifically the reason why is because when I was doing my live action Clone Wars, like, should we get them, and then talking about like the unfinished arcs, that was one of the arcs that they wanted to do, was like an alien style arc slash like Zillow Beast, another portion of it. So it was cool to see that come to fruition within the Bad Batch, and that and the Kashyyyk arc that we got with, oh god, don't tell me his name, Gunship. That was another, not exactly the same, but it was more of like an adapted arc from original Clone Wars plans. And,
oh, right, yeah.
And I loved that. I'm glad we got both of them, but it definitely leaned into that alien kind of creature feature like you mentioned. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the lights on the ship are flickering, and Omega's, like, some of my favorite horror stuff, as much as it, like, sucks to say, like, it's through the little kid's perspective, so it's, like, much more scary than it would be through an adult's perspective.
Yeah.
Right? So having Omega there, and she's scared because she's a soldier, but she's also a kid. It was just so, I think it was so good and just so well done. And also, I really freaking love that show a lot. I know that
it's good.
Sometimes an unpopular opinion, but I really, really love that show, especially the second season. So it all, like, it checked a lot of boxes for me, for sure.
It's so funny that you bring that up, because I don't know if you saw my tweet earlier. I was like, I miss Star Wars animation so much right now. I'm really missing animation a lot. Maybe I'm just in my feels, but, like, what do you think about that? Are you missing animation as well?
Well, it's funny. I had a similar conversation actually with Crystal on Instagram about that. I have recently also been in my feels, so maybe that's also why, but also Star Wars animation, for anyone who's listened to KRYPTON to ALDERAAN, Star Wars animation, or animated Star Wars, is kind of my Star Wars. It's ends up being what makes Star Wars special to me the most. So I have been missing it a lot lately. I've also been putting together, like, I've been, like, setting myself up to do more design freelance, and I've been putting together like a mood board to figure out, like, my design personality and stuff. Anyway, Star Wars has come up a lot on it, obviously, and Star Wars Visions Volume 2, Sith is, like, my...
Oh, Sith, yeah.
I saw Sith, and I was like, this is kind of like the type of designer that I want to be. These are, like, this is my aesthetic. And so I found that, and I put that on the board, and that's when I was like, oh, I should really revisit Star Wars Visions. And, you know, while we're in this hiatus and we don't know what's coming next, a bunch of Star Wars animation. I really have been missing it a lot lately. I've also been, like, talking with Royce about Clone Wars arcs that he should watch, so we can talk about it on the podcast.
Now that you've indoctrinated him, which
exactly.
I even texted you about it. I was like, Royce is Joey's co-host, by the way, for those who don't know, on KRYPTON to ALDERAAN. And when I started listening to KRYPTON to ALDERAAN, Royce was very much like, you know, oh, I'm not gonna watch the Clone Wars, like, I'm not really into the animated stuff. Somehow Joey has got him to do a full 180, and, like, I even feel like a proud parent listening to him talk about where he's like, oh, I see the connections in it now, and I'm like, yes, like, one of us, like, he gets it.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten around and around with that, of being like, you don't have to watch it if you don't want to being like, just watch it. Just watch it.
What
it's
else
there,
are you gonna
it's easy
watch?
To watch? Just watch it. Yeah, like, But also, we've all grown a lot. I would advise no one to go back and listen to early episodes of our podcast, which is something every podcaster says. It's also really interesting to see us all grow and, like, I don't know, be more open to different elements and perspectives within the stories and stuff like that. So I really appreciate it. It also, like, keeps me passionate and reinvigorates my love for, like, animation, where I'm like, oh, watch the Youngling arc on Ilum, which is one of my favorites, or watch the Mortis arc, which is just the best, or, you know, watch the Fives arc. Just watch the whole damn thing. But anyway, so
watch the whole thing.
Yes. Have been missing Star Wars animation a lot lately. I think my first thing will be to return to Visions Volume 2, because I'm a canon person. Like,
same.
Visions, if you go back and listen to my podcast episode when the first volume of Visions came out, I completely turned around. I was like, canon be damned. Like, I love canon. My lifeblood is canon. But once Visions came out, I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is incredible stuff, and it, like, I don't need it to be connected to any other thing or anything like that. Like, it's beautiful, it's brilliant, it's giving so many people who have been fans of this stuff for their entire lives a voice in the world. Like, I can't imagine getting that phone call, right? And basically being like, oh, your dreams are coming true today. Like, that is, can you
put
imagine?
it like that?
Like, that's incredible. So it's all worth it.
My favorite, so your favorite was Sith then, from season 2.
Yeah.
So my favorite was, hold on, before I say this, let me make sure. I'm trying to run through, like, which ones, but I'm like 99% sure my favorite was, oh no, I really liked Screecher's Reach a lot. That was kind of one of the other kind of, if you want spooky Star Wars, like, here's something else that you should watch. I loved Screecher's Reach, but then I forgot, what was the French one from the French studio? It made me cry.
Was that the claymation?
No, the one from the French studio was the one where it had, like, the, what do they call it? What are those people? It's like the Circus Soleil, and they, like, wrap around on the fabric and stuff. Somebody in the chat, Sky Dancer. Yes. Sky Dancer.
So good.
Which is so funny. I'm such a Gemini. Like, those are my two personalities: Screecher's Reach and Sky Dancer.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, from what I understand about all of that, I'm a Scorpio, and it really feels like, maybe it's because I'm a Scorpio and I'm saying what I feel is true, but it really feels like Sith is a pretty good representation of how I exist as a Scorpio in aesthetic and vibe and everything.
I love that. Yeah, I don't know if I would say that either of them are necessarily aesthetically me, other than, like I said, Screecher's Reach is spooky. I like spooky things, but that feels like so surface level. But I love that, you know, Sith has that kind of meaning and connection for you, and that's the great thing about Star Wars and letting people play in the sandbox, is that you get these different stories that you wouldn't normally get. So
I think about this, okay, this is something that lives in my head rent-free, and maybe that's a little self-serving, but in one of our episodes, we were talking about, it might have been a Halloween episode, and I think I asked the question something like, wouldn't you want, like, a fan-made, live-action, gritty, spooky version of Gravity Falls? Because I would love that. I mean, I love animation, but I also love these kind of fan-made, like that Power Rangers thing that came out a few years ago of, like...
Oh, the gritty Power Rangers, yeah.
Future thing. Anyway, so, and then someone on the podcast was like, but would you like it if it was fan-made? And I didn't respond back then, but my, now, the version of me that exists now would be like, yeah, it's all fan-made. right? Like that's what Visions is, and that's what like all these books are. It's it's a fan getting the call and like taking something they've written down somewhere in an old, I don't know. I'm romanticizing it a lot, but thinking about like someone jotting this idea down when they were young and expanding on it, or writing it in their journal, or like taking it off of their AO3 account. That's what all this is. It's the most amazing part of how Star Wars is existing now, is that it's giving these voices it's giving the ability for these fans to have the voice, right? That's what we like started in 1977, and all the people who grew up watching it and loving it are now getting control. And that's the most amazing part to me of how Star Wars is existing today. Like Filoni, obviously the biggest Star Wars fan and nerd that you'll probably ever meet, but like everyone writing these books, especially the High Republic books, like put a bunch of writers in a room and they come up with this like all these through lines and everything. Yeah,
all that behind the scenes stuff was really cool. But this begs a question, and it's actually a question Star Wars Meg and I, she had me on her podcast on her Patreon, so we talked last Friday. And if you don't follow her, she's really great. I really loved talking with her. Not that I didn't think that I would, but I was like, wow, we have a lot in common, and you are really like somebody I would vibe with. But she had asked me, because we were talking about the Acolyte, and she said, I almost said Gina Carano, Jesus Christ. Leslie Headland.
Very opposite.
I know. Don't quote me on that ever. Leslie Headland had made a comment saying that Star Wars had moved past George Lucas, and she asked me how I felt about that, like what my thoughts were on that statement. And I feel like this kind of ties into what you were just talking about, is like people that are creating Star Wars now are also fans of it. And I was like, I feel like it has and it hasn't. Everything's going to be done in what he created. However, do I think that we, like all those people that are like, oh, George Lucas is coming back, like, oh, he's going to fix everything, and it's like, I don't think like we need him to come back or anything. I mean, would I love him to come back and like be like a creative consultant? Sure, whatever. But how do you feel about that statement that Star Wars has moved past George Lucas?
I think Star Wars has moved past George Lucas, and George Lucas has moved past Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
We are what they grow beyond. Right? Like, that's it.
Is that a Yoda line?
Yes. In Last Jedi, which I've come to kind of love dearly. But anyway...
As basically anybody who's, like, cool and likes good media has.
Anyone who's hot loves The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that all these things... if they can continue to exist, they're going to grow beyond the creator, and he's always going to be the creator. And these people, I would be very surprised if like Filoni or Favreau or any of these people don't call him up when they have a question or something, right? Like, is it okay if we do this? Like, I know Filoni was doing that early on in the Clone Wars and stuff. Maybe not so much now, but even Filoni now pushing the borders of it's always going to exist within George Lucas's world, with going to Peridia, with creating kind of this whole new galaxy/universe for it to exist in. I think we're growing beyond it, and everyone in charge is sorry. Never mind. I won't even get into it. I think that they're doing a great job for the most part of doing that. So. I'm very excited to see where it goes, and I'm a huge High Republic fan. And the stuff that the High Republic...
You and I both. I love the High Republic.
I know. You want me to... We can sit here and talk about it all day. Who's your favorite High Republic character?
Dagan Kira. Oh, Vernestra Rowe, duh, from The Acolyte.
Cantum Psy. Any Cantum Psy fans in the chat?
Oh no, I don't like them. Mm-mm.
Oh, bummer.
Well, actually, I lied. No, I do. I really like them. They're really cool.
I don't think you know.
No, I have no idea.
Anyway, pushing the borders of what it could be. I also think to bring the conversation back to Halloween and spooky stuff.
Oh, true.
Anyone in the chat who is into the High Republic, the Nameless or the Leveler, whatever you want to call it, is the scariest.
I know what the Nameless are. I know what they do.
Even just the way they were introduced. I mean, now we've seen them, which kind of takes it away from me. I really like not seeing the creature, the bad guy, or stuff like that. It's gonna have to happen eventually. Like when it was set up and they were doing what they were gonna do to the Jedi, and the way the High Republic was pitched to us all was like, we're asking the question of what are the Jedi afraid of, and like that being answered in kind of a very traumatic way. That is the most terrifying entity in canon in Star Wars.
Ooh, that would have been really great for my video, wouldn't it have?
Yes.
Ooh.
See this monster?
Oh my god, it's so cute. I turned my mouse off. I can't scroll up in the chat.
Oh, I should. Sorry, I'm. Let's see here.
I saw something that I wanted to. I saw
anime 40 episodes per season. Scotty should write a Star Wars book. Is that what you want to touch on?
Oh god, no, that wouldn't go well. I'm horrible. I get hung up with dialogue and then it never ends. Oh! Austin said the anime ones in Season 2 Star Wars Visions Season 2 are the best. We need a full anime for Star Wars. I want Studio Ghibli feature-length Star Wars film. That's what I want. That's not spooky either. But I was like, I remember there was something in the chat that I wanted to mention. But yeah. And y'all know I'm on my Studio Ghibli shit all the time. With Princess Mononoke and like Howl's Moving Castle is my favorite. But that's
I just watched that.
How did you like it?
I really liked it. So this is my whole introduction. So KRYPTON to Alderaan might have been your first podcast appearance, but you are the reason why I have gotten into Studio Ghibli. I've never watched a Studio Ghibli film until you put out your Princess Mononoke video. And then I have friends
that makes
here.
Me so happy. I love that.
And I have friends here who are huge Studio Ghibli fans, so we've like instituted this like group watch night. So I've watched Howl's Moving Castle and Toto. My neighbor Totoro. Toto's the dog from maybe alcohol. You know, I did it to loosen up, but now I'm forgetting.
You're fine.
Yeah, My Neighbor Totoro.
I haven't seen My Neighbor Totoro.
Oh, super fun. Kind of eerie from my perspective, but also like there's something really weird about a lot of these like Ghibli films from what I can understand. Princess Mononoke, maybe like the demonic presence is very present, but with Howl's Moving Castle and My Neighbor Totoro, it seems more of like an atmosphere kind of that leaves me or makes me feel eerie, which I also appreciate, you know?
Well,
I want to see The Boy and the Heron.
I would like to see The Boy and the Heron too. It will in December. Mark Hamill is in the voice cast.
Yeah, the voice cast, the English voice cast looks incredible, but also, I guess I'm not sure. Is it having like a major release? Is it going to every theater? Because I live in a place where I would have loved to see the Ghibli films over the summer when they were doing like the Ghibli 2023 theater releases, but it never came to the theater by me because I happen to live in the middle of nowhere. So, huge bummer.
As far as I know, because I've never been into any of their films when they've actually released in a theater. I mean, I've seen them for like, you know, Ghibli Fest and whatnot, but I haven't actually I haven't been around when they've released one in a theater. So my assumption is that it's going to be like a world release, but I don't know. If somebody in the chat knows, please let us know. I fucked something up. Surprise, surprise.
You might have... Well, the chat is saying that maybe you murdered Tet and that's why you have blood on your face, so...
Maybe. I said there can only be one NB to rule them all.
Confession is now on the, you know, live streamed on the internet, so...
It's spooky and naughty. What the fuck?
Stellan Geos. Marta Rowe. I love Marta Rowe. I love the whole Path of the Open Hand stuff. That's like my favorite part of phase 2 has been the really weird culty stuff. I think that's also like very horror-y, especially in the first Path book. It's Path of Deceit, I think was the first one, right? And Path of Vengeance is the second one. I loved all of that. Heartbreaking as they usually are, but also just so uncomfortable, right? And eerie. Yeah, you know what? This is making me think Star Wars is going more and more in like a horror direction all the time.
Keep it up.
Hi, Sarek. This is great. I love all of the High Republic love in the chat.
It's just me. It's just me who doesn't read it. And it's because, as I continue to point out, I did not read. I didn't know how until a year ago. So, I got a lot of catching up to do. I had no idea how to read, ever. So, I still have to read Shadows of the Sith. I have to read Lost Stars, because everyone was like, oh my god, if you love Dark Disciple, you'll love Lost Stars. I'm missing pieces. Am I drunk? Is that what's going on?
Probably.
Or am I missing them?
Gone. That's the way I always do Legos. I can't find something and then I think, oh, they messed up and they didn't send me the right piece, and then there's actually 3 of those pieces, so it's probably gone.
It's almost like there's pieces, like extra pieces that I don't need that are supposed to build these like other pieces. It's bizarre. I don't know. Continue.
Austin, if y'all have me on Wayseekers to do a Wayseekers slideshow, I'm either going to do a slideshow about how much I loved the Thrawn for Dummies and how vindicated I felt when I watched and listened to that, or I'm just going to like rant about the High Republic for 2 hours, which will also be fine, I guess. From my perspective, I think that would be fine. So, but I really think that if you're into the High Republic and like Cantum Sai or Orla Jareni are not your favorite characters, then I don't know, maybe you missed something. Maybe that will be the thesis of my slideshow. Who knows?
I would be there for it. I would pay attention to your slideshow. I learned a lot in the Thrawn one.
Yeah, didn't your Thrawn episode make you want to go read some Thrawn books?
It did, and then I remembered I'm a Star Wars creator. I don't have time to read things that aren't current.
Not all the time in the world. We don't even know when the next thing is happening.
Oh my god, I know. I was thinking today, I was like, is it finally time to do my Jedi Survivor video?
You got plenty of time to work on that Dark Disciple. Did you learn how to read specifically for Dark Disciple? Was that the moment when you were finally like, you know what, I should give this whole reading thing a try?
So, yes. Dark Disciple not only taught me how to read, it inspired me to read. And through picking up that book, I then learned from Massage Ventress herself. She taught me. And so that's why we're so connected now as luminous beings.
Ventress beings. I love Ventress so much.
Let's talk about a spooky girl. Talk about
spooky girl, spooky and naughty.
Spooky.
Apparently,
and naughty.
our favorite thing.
What else is she? She's bald.
I mean, she's bald. She's got cheekbones for miles. I have tried to draw her. I was doing this whole like a lot of my favorite characters from a lot of these things are women, and I was doing this like series of sketches where I was drawing my favorite characters, and she was on the list, and then I tried to draw her, and I can't draw the cheekbones. So there's that. Anyone in the chat can help me, give me some pointers on drawing cheekbones? How do you, anyway.
Not me.
Anyway, I love her. I think she's great. Etc.
Yeah.
How's that for live stream content?
Honestly, people have like mentioned, oh, should we get Ventress in live action? And I'm like, God, no.
Yeah.
I cried when they mentioned her name in Ahsoka. I cried.
That, man, we could also talk about Ahsoka. I don't know. I don't know how to bring it back to spooky and naughty.
Witches
of
Dathomir.
I also thought of you during the finale because you and I had a conversation. I don't remember why or when, but about how you were like, can Morgan Elsbeth just do something already? I think that was, I'm paraphrasing, but I think that was the gist of it.
Yep. And she did something.
And she did, and then it was over. So.
Rest in peace, girl.
Yeah.
We could hold on. What is Austin talking about? Some book club. We could read a fourth of a book each week till we finish, and that way we could discuss the book with each other and encourage each other to read. I do read. I'm reading Dark Legends. I only have one story left though, unfortunately. So I do have Myths and Fables, which I plan on reading. Hold the fuck up. Oh, never mind.
I have not been watching you put this Lego together, but I think I would love to try to describe to you how to put the Lego together and then see if you could do it.
Well, I'm not very good at it on my own, so I don't know if I'd be any better with you describing it to me. I can't do that.
What was that thumbs down bubble that just happened in the middle of the screen on the stream? Is that something that happens now?
I guess.
Did anyone else see that, or have I had too much to drink?
No, that's a thing. I don't. It's like little reactions that you can do.
Interesting. But it happened. Yeah.
It happened at me. They were like, "No, don't do that. Follow the rules." I don't have a piece.
It's probably missing.
It probably is. This is the jankiest set. I've missed multiple pieces. Lego, I'm gonna call and speak to the manager. Okay, well, I'm just gonna try to make it work, and there's gonna be, it's like the Death Star.
I gave Art advice, I answered the call, Joey. Okay, sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chat, but Eric said that they gave swoop your line from the sideburn to the bottom of the nose. Alright, you know what? I'm gonna take a screenshot of this, turning my keyboard on to take a screenshot of this, and I'm gonna give this a shot for drawing Ventress's cheekbones, because I haven't given up, but I do get sad when I try to do it.
What is not working? Oh, wait, it's good. Okay.
You nailed it. You nailed it, buddy.
Look at that.
Yeah, plop that right in there.
Okay. We're making progress. Oh my gosh. Joey, I don't...
Have you... Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't think I know what your favorite scary movie is. That's funny. That's a line in Scream. What's your favorite scary movie?
That's a really good question. Do I know what my favorite scary movie is?
It's a tough. It's a tough one.
The thing that pops up immediately in my head is the Babadook, because there's elements of that movie that are so haunting to me that when I think about them, I have the same reaction as I did. So the first time, my camera's really shaky, huh? The first time I watched the Babadook, I was alone because I don't have any friends that like horror movies. So I watched the Babadook, and then I went to bed. It was at night, and I was alone, and I went to bed, and I, had that scary, spooky feeling that you get at night when you're alone and you've watched a scary movie, or that I guess I get. I'm hoping there are others that feel the same. But it transcended, it elevated to this experience of like, you know what? I've lived a good life. If this creature comes and gets me, I kind of just gave up in that moment. So it was such a scary movie that it had the effect on me to the extent that I gave up. I was just like, it's over.
This is the end.
Me, it's over. Yeah.
There was. So. Was it Barbarian that you had mentioned something like that similarly too?
Yes. I mean, the Babadook is much more, I think, my kind of horror than Barbarian, but Barbarian is also terrifying and I would say like haunting. Like after you're done, an element of haunt that it gives you. But
okay, I gotta be missing pieces because this shit is not right.
I have not seen The Lodge. I'm a big fan of Cabin in the Woods. Just as a fun sort of horror comedy thing. I have been part of this book club in the town that we've moved to. I guess because I'm old and it's like a sci-fi book club. But I pitched everyone on the idea of reading The Shining for the Halloween times. And The Shining is a book that I've read every year since I was 16 years old. I really love the book. I really don't like the movie. I'm sorry. I know it's like a big deal. But I really love the book, and I really connect with a lot of elements of like Danny Torrance, the little kid in the book. So but I was able to talk everyone into reading this, and we all read it and like had a conversation about it. But I think that The Shining the book is my favorite horror thing that exists. Like, and I think in the early 2000s they made a version, like a miniseries version, a made-for-TV version that was very to the book, whereas like Kubrick's movie is just super different than the book. So I appreciate like the made-for-TV miniseries, but that book I think is my favorite horror thing. And then the sequel to that book, Dr. Sleep, not super horror, but I think Dr. Sleep might be just my favorite book of all time. I've also read that like every year since it came out in 2013 or 2014. It's a beautiful book. I mean, beautiful I think is the best way to describe it. It's a like perfect sequel, I think, to the events that happened in The Shining.
Did you see the movie Dr. Sleep?
Did see the movie. I also don't like that. I think both the movie version of The Shining and the movie version of Dr. Sleep miss some points that I hold to be pretty important points about
Star Wars
story and the characters and stuff.
Star Wars Subway asked how you felt about Dr. Sleep in the chat. Perfect.
Yeah. I love the book. I thought so. The way I've explained this is the movie version of Dr. Sleep versus the book is much less egregious than the book of The Shining and the movie of The Shining. Like, they are just two totally different things. The Dr. Sleep, some elements are like fine, but there's some very important points, or that points that I hold to be very important in the book that do not translate in the movie.
Ewan McGregor's in it.
Ewan McGregor's in it. I liked his portrayal of like grown-up Danny Torrance a lot. I wish that Mike Flanagan, I think he's the one who made that movie. I've liked a lot of stuff that he's been making, the Netflix horror stuff. I just wish that he didn't focus on making it a sequel to the movie The Shining and focus more on making it sequel to the book, or more like the book Doctor Sleep. But I think The Shining's my favorite horror thing.
I don't think I have read any like horror books. Obviously I mentioned Dark Legends, but I wouldn't consider that a horror book.
Yeah. It's also interesting to hear everyone's different takes on this. You know, I really enjoyed talking to a group of people who've never read The Shining and would have never read The Shining. It was kind of a hard sell to get them. Like what different people consider to be horror, what different people are able to approach, right? What's accessible to different people in terms of horror. Sometimes most of the time in my experience, it's zero. I can't get anybody to watch it with me. But like, it's definitely a spectrum, right? And then we have different, like, I don't like gore and stuff like that. I think you were talking about
oh yeah, I like gore.
Talking about this with your conversation with Crystal a couple streams ago, where like what we had growing up was Saw and stuff like that, which wasn't my jam. So it's nice to be getting these like maybe Babadooks and Barbarian body horror, some gore type stuff, but that really kind of more spooky stuff, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, paranormal, just dark. The thing I love most about the Babadook is there's like practical effects with puppetry and stuff that just always is gonna freak me out. So.
Oh, like The Thing. The Thing's got some great practical effects, and it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah. I really, really enjoy John Carpenter's The Thing. As much as I just said I don't like gore, there is something about that really appeals to me.
I mean, who doesn't love good special effects? Like,
yeah.
And like good practical effects, I should say. Who was it? Star Wars Sublight said Kubrick's Shining to Doctor Sleep, an example of an amazing sequel decades after. Well, Star Wars Sublight likes it. With Train Spotting and T2.
I love that. I also that's part of my pitch also, to try to get people to read Doctor Sleep and The Shining. So when King wrote The Shining in 77 or whenever he wrote it, he was writing some pretty messed up stuff, right? He wrote Carrie and he wrote It and he wrote The Shining.
Oh, I love It.
And he was an addict, right? He was actively an addict and wrote a lot of himself into some of these characters like Jack Torrance.
Ooh.
And then you fast forward to Doctor Sleep, which he wrote in the early to mid 2000s. And he was in recovery at that point. And you can see the evolution, you can track the evolution of this man's progress and his writing, you know, over 30, 40 years, which I think is just incredible. Like, he's such a prolific writer, which I think it's just amazing. You can kind of like watch his trajectory of writing year after year. But to have the original version written in the 70s when he was a very different person, to the sequel written in the early 2000s when he's like in recovery and doing these things to like better himself, and he's writing the characters that way, and how Danny Torrance is struggling with addiction, and how, you know, traumatizing it was that everything that happened to him, but also his father was an addict. It's just like incredible to watch that trajectory, and also just a beautiful story.
I am missing some fucking pieces. This is some bullshit. Look, I'll show you. Well, for those who are paying attention to the screen, I'm supposed to be making this, right? I got this piece here. I don't have another 3-piece to put here like I'm supposed to. I don't have a tan long piece to put here. I have that. I have this, but I don't have the other piece that it goes with. And I don't think, oh, and I do have the little 2-piece. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I got the janky Republic Gunship over here. This ain't the Ultimate Collector's Edition. This is the Ultimate Missing Pieces Figure It Out Edition.
I think they rely on Ultimate Collectors to be able to improvise with the pieces.
Well,
I'm a master builder.
I may not be an Ultimate Collector, but I am gonna improvise. That's for sure. Too bad I don't have like bountiful Legos, or else I would just be like, I'll just pull one from here and pull one from here, and you know, we'll get it working.
Get Lego on the horn. I love that. I always, you know what, Star Wars Sublight, I really appreciate that because I always, that phrase always gets a chuckle out of me. Get Lego on the horn. And also, Andrew, 1981's Possession, I have never seen that, but I took a screenshot of your comment here so that I have it on my list to watch. I'm always looking for great horror recs, y'all, so.
Same.
Light up the chat.
I used to be really good about watching stuff, and now I'm not. So, yeah, recommendations are appreciated. Austin's calling you out, Joey. They said, who else up right now waiting for a new episode of KRYPTON to ALDERAAN?
Yeah, me too. Me too, Austin. Royce was sick, and then I was sick, and then I guess kind of I was also sick, but in a more emotional way, so we've put off recording an episode for 3 weeks in a row now, but I'm pretty sure we're recording Thursday. It's gonna be like a Q&A, so if anyone has any
your
cues,
100th episode.
hit me up. It's our 100th episode. Yeah, that's right. It is, isn't it? I forgot about that. It's kind of special, huh? We put it off for a long time.
Not me reminding you.
Yeah, I honestly completely forgot that it's a milestone. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully Thursday. Hit us up with some cues or whatever.
I put a question.
I know, I have it.
It was a stressful one. If somebody said that to me, I would be like, you motherfucker, I don't want to answer this.
I took them all and put them in like a spreadsheet, so I'm sorry to say that I don't specifically remember your question, but I love that that's your own reaction to the question that you asked.
I asked, what are you and Royce's favorite episodes that you've ever done, but you can't pick each of you has to pick one separately. So you better start going back in the archive.
That is great. I really love that question, which is what I will say about every question that we get.
What a great question.
Yeah, super great. Thanks so much for writing in.
Blow up KRYPTON to ALDERAAN's comments with your questions, everybody.
Yeah. You'll hear me, if nothing else, you'll hear me praise and validate you, which, you know what, we all need.
Agreed.
So, there's that. Royce always, as surprising as it is when Royce hits me up by saying, I watched this episode of Clone Wars, it was dope, and I'm like, well, yeah. He also hits me up by saying, with stuff like, oh, I was just listening to our Book of Boba Fett predictions episode.
Oh,
it's
no.
Crazy that we said this. And I'm like, I have absolutely no recollection of that. I'm super stoked that you're going back in the archive and listening to us talk. So I think he will be more active to answer something like that, whereas I'm actually going to have to go back and do research and be like, wait, what did I really like that I said? Because usually, after we put an episode out and I listen to it, I'm like, I can't believe I said that.
I don't listen to many podcast episodes that I'm on back because I'll just critique myself the entire time and be like, oh my god, you sound like a fucking idiot, or oh, you keep saying and you're answering questions badly. That'll be me rewatching or listening back to me doing a podcast or whatever. So I just don't listen to them back, and I leave it all on the cutting room floor, as they say. Yeah, we edit a lot, and I just consulted with someone who started a podcast, and they sent me their audio for their first episode, and I took it upon myself to do some post-production work. Oof.
Which then I felt really bad about, but I cut out a lot of their ums and dead space and kind of zhuzhed up their EQ. So I did some extra work that I did not get permission to do beforehand, but
I'm sure they appreciate it.
They sound a lot better than they did.
Austin can say in the chat how much of me they have to edit out. I don't even know. It might be a lot, it might be a little. Oh, by the way, this is what we've come to. So there's no tan piece to go here, so I grabbed these extra pieces. And we're gonna make do. Because Lego fucked me over.
You're gonna find those pieces in 10 minutes. You're gonna find those pieces.
Usually I do, but like, unless they're in a special bag by themselves, like there's no more pieces out here. So
Is this is not the final stream of this, is it?
Oh God, no.
Okay.
No.
That would be a lot of pressure for me. It was also enough pressure doing the Halloween episode.
But you're a Halloween person like me. We're talking about horror. I was like, okay, who do I know that likes spooky shit like I do? And you were one of the people on the list, and I was like, me and Joey haven't done something in so long. Like we said at the beginning, it's been since December of last year. We're a month away from a year ago.
Ooh. Oh, that's even worse. You know what? We should collaborate more often. We should collaborate more often. That is something I would do in the podcast. I would mess it up and say it again, and then we cut out the bad part, but we can't do that because it's a live stream. But we should do that more often because I love collaboration. We all content creators in the same space, if they're all non-toxic, should do collaboration. That's how I feel. I love this collaboration aspect, especially within this like corner of Star Wars content creation that we have kind of entered into with I don't know, I feel like we entered into this very positive corner of Star Wars fandom with like
we lucked out
with like Pink Milk, right, and Chase and other positive voices in the space, because before I found Pink Milk, I did not think that this space existed. We were in very early days of KRYPTON to ALDERAAN and trying to do our own thing and not really understanding the space, and then found Pink Milk and their following and became part of that community. And
that's how we found each other.
Yeah, exactly. And until then, I did not think that this space existed. So I don't know, it feels very special to have gotten to, you know what, it gets emotional to talk about, but it just feels very special to have gotten involved in this particular corner of the fandom, something that I always hoped existed as a Star Wars fan, as a nerd, as someone who maybe wasn't always accepted
preaching to the choir,
by the people I was around. So anyway, that's it's a little bit of deepness there for the conversation, but it does feel very special.
You were talking to the right person about it, honestly.
Non-spooky. I do want to point out Eric made a horror recommendation, Leviathan 1989. I have not watched it, but I have seen like I'm also super into like poster art and package art, and I have a vivid picture of like the VHS cover or whatever of Leviathan, and so it is also now on the list.
Okay.
Crystal says she read Misery. If you haven't read More King, I would recommend reading more.
Okay, but Stephen King books are thick.
They are thick.
And I guess I can't handle the thickness.
No, just get the audiobook and listen to it at 2 times speed.
Okay, we have an issue.
Crystal, this is your Star Wars escape room. This stream right now is the Star Wars escape room. I cannot believe how quickly time has gone by.
Do you see this?
I don't want this to end at 11 o'clock.
Well, it might not at the rate I'm going. Do you see this piece here where there's nothing?
I do not. I have not been paying attention to the build because it's over there. And I'm sorry.
Needless to say, there's a nice, beautiful diagonal piece here. However, this side does not have that. And the reason why is because pieces are missing. Could you imagine? Could y'all imagine if I was one of those channels that had like 100,000 subscribers? Lego would be like emailing me tomorrow apologizing. They'd be like, we're so sorry, we're gonna overnight you these missing pieces. But I'm not.
Lego will do that now. Literally, I had a like a mini set, whatever they're called, that they messed up on. They sent me like 2 Chewbacca torsos instead of a torso and a set of legs. And I filled out a form on their website, and they were like, we're so sorry, we're going to send this out to you. And it was here in like 2 days. So
well,
they are very good at being a multi-billion-dollar company that sends you a replacement for this mistake that they made.
Okay, but here's the worst part about it. I've already done that once. And they've already sent me the piece that was missing. So, but this time it's like 5 pieces. Crystal said, look on the floor. Yeah, as Austin said, mine only took like 17 days.
Oh, shit. Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I'm gonna go off camera really quick and double check.
Who's on the Star Wars shit list then? Star Wars Sublight says. I'm not gonna.
I guess me.
We all know.
Is there another bag I'm missing?
If you go off camera, I'm gonna be here by myself.
I'm not gonna go off camera.
And have to vamp?
I mean, could they be in the bag for the number 8? Oh, let me not put the crunchy bag right next to this, the microphone. Ugh, I don't know what to do.
Yes, Eric. Yes, 100%. Yep.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Also, does he even do Lego streams? He just talks about how Kathleen Kennedy's the devil reincarnate, and
Lego's too woke.
Lego is too woke. You're right. That sounds like one of his streams. This is woke because I don't know. I can't think of a reason why it would be woke. Oh my god. Shut the fuck up, Austin.
House, 1977. Okay, well, Japanese horror. Okay, so actually,
I've heard good things about that.
Chase, aka That Gay Jedi, was on KRYPTON to ALDERAAN, and they recommended that to me. We did a Halloween horror episode. You just reminded me of this, Andrew. We did a horrorine episode, and they recommended that. But I was also recommending to them House. You found them.
I found some.
Were they in the garbage?
They didn't come out of the bag yet. This is why Lego doesn't send me pieces until 17 days. Because I slander them for 10 minutes.
They're gonna find them in the bottom of the bag. I was recommending a different version of House. It's an American movie with, I think it was like a veteran with PTSD buys a house, and it either turns out that it's haunted or he's having PTSD. Anyway, it's creepy as hell. The VHS box cover is like a old zombie hand reaching for a doorknob, if any of you are familiar. Anyway, we were recommending to each other 2 different movies called House, and they recommended a Japanese horror comedy. Yeah. Which I have not watched, but has been on my like HBO watch list since they recommended it maybe a year ago.
Well, you know, we all get to the bottom of our list at some point. Okay.
What else we got? Full House. Good, Austin. That is a different kind of horror, if you ask me.
I guess it was... Well, then again, who's that girl that's the mom now? She played DJ, Candace something. She's a conservative piece of shit, so... that sounds pretty horrible to me.
Stuff. Also, Austin throwing some shade at me, saying that they're surprised seeing me awake this late.
It's valid, funny.
But also ow, but also I'm often awake but just in my bed, either honestly, like, I would say reading, but it's really just like scrolling through Instagram.
Doom scrolling.
Like, yeah, unhealthy way. And then I wake up sleepy and then say I'm going to go to bed early and then get to bed at 10 o'clock and do the same thing. So
it happens to the best of us.
Peek behind the curtain.
What the literal fuck? I'm like...
Scotty, check the other bags.
Oh wait, maybe it's because this piece needs to be put on here. Okay.
Hugh Laurie. Oh, House MD. That's a good... It's hard to keep up with the chat, but there's some solid gold comedy going on in there.
House MD. Is that the one with the guy who's addicted to like pain pills, who's a doctor?
Yeah.
You
know what? It turns out that that addiction lends itself very well to the horror genre. The Shining.
Yeah.
House MD. Maybe others. I don't know.
Okay. This piece is good. Lego.
Nurse Jackie.
Nurse Jackie. Yeah, that is another one. I started watching that show. It wasn't my vibe. Once again, this is back when I did not have a Star Wars YouTube channel and could watch other things other than Star Wars. Literally, I'm about to start watching Young Jedi Adventures because I have to prepare for the In a Galaxy trivia next month. Well, I guess this coming month, as of tomorrow. So
you should watch Young Jedi Adventures and then also read all of the High Republic before the Alkalite, and you'll be all caught up.
Well, who knows when the Acolyte's gonna come out at this rate, so it's probably pushed back to the end of 2024. Austin said, what's the scariest movie y'all have ever seen? That's hard, because, as I already talked about, I like gore. So most people would say something that's, like, really gory is really scary, but I'm trying to think of something that, like, made it hard to sleep at night.
Ichi the Killer. Interesting. Never heard of it, never seen it. I love this question because I really want to be scared.
Me too. Anybody too, if anybody can chime in, because I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
For me, it's hard to get away from the Babadook because, again, it feels like there's something so... It's like fundamentally consuming. I don't know. There's something there that's very eerie, and it's also, I think, in my mind, very sort of scary to attribute it to this, like, woman who's had this very traumatic thing happen to her, and her dealing with raising the child on her own, and like, what's the monster kind of thing. And us, honestly, us, like you said before,
us is chilling.
Us. It's very chilling, and it's very like it's Body Snatchers, but a good version, which there's never in my mind been a very good version of, but also like the only reason the Body Snatchers want to body snatch is because they felt they have been done wrong, which I think is also lends itself, like it adds a certain depth to the story that makes it, when I can connect with horror, it makes it so much more scary to me, because there's like a real element, right? There becomes that personal connection. There's this personal connection that you have to it that makes it more real, that I think makes it even more scary.
I agree. It's whenever something, and that's why, like, spiritual stuff, ghost spirits, like supernatural stuff, I don't know, I almost feel like supernatural stuff is scarier to me because it's something that I don't have control over, to where there's nothing really that I can do to keep something like that from happening. Like, I can't combat it, whereas, like, if, you know, a killer is chasing me, I can at least try to fight. But, like, how am I supposed to fight if, like, I'm possessed? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. I think that's the scariest part of The Shining, the book, to me, is that the amount you can attribute. I think the movie is much more about, like, potentially about, like, Jack's psychosis and all of the stuff that he's going through. The book is much more about the hotel being an active character and kind of not infecting, but maybe using people's weaknesses or exposing their wounds to a greater extent that you can't hide from, especially when it comes to addiction. But I also think that sort of I guess on a less deep level, that's also why I kind of love the early Paranormal Activity movies. Like, there's just something about that amount of suspense, especially I think it's in the second one where the two women are little girls. It's like, and that's super awkward on the live stream.
We didn't hear.
Super. But the two women in the first movie are little girls. It's like prequels, but it's like there's a lot of uncontrollable stuff, which we find scary to not be in control of stuff. But then there's also the, like, we're not in control of a situation, but also there's a lamp moving from one side of the room to the other. So,
and then it comes and smacks you in the face, like. Ugh. I'm opening this. I don't know how much I'm gonna get through of it, but you know, so be it.
Monster Squad. I feel like Hereditary. Oh.
I don't know how I felt about Hereditary, to be honest. It was very unsettling. I'll give it that. And then that was another one where I was like, if this happened to me, you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I could do.
Yeah, like Crystal is saying, like there's a lot of grief wrapped up in it. I think there's a great element of this where there becomes this question of, like, is this how people are dealing with grief? Is this a representation of how people deal with grief? Like, if anybody's read Lock and Key, again, like video, like Netflix made a series that I haven't really appreciated, but I've read the books, and I think the point that the books make that the series doesn't really make is it's like how it might be a representation of how this family deals with this tragic thing happening, how do, like, young boys deal with grief, how does a wife deal with grief, all that stuff, and I think that makes it a really beautiful series of comic books. I think that's a point that the show misses, but there's that element of horror. I think, like, I would consider Lock and Key some amount of horror because it's very, like, there's some body horror, there's a lot of, like, horror elements, there's stuff like that, but there's also that personal connection that I think makes it a little bit more real, and I think that makes it more scary.
That's true. See, it's such a fine line of whether it's your mind that's doing it, whether it's an internal thing or an external thing. That sounds so plain. Bye, Eric. Thank you for hanging out.
Oh yeah, bye, Eric. Thanks for the Rex. Definitely added to the list. Really appreciate it. Always looking for more horror. I gotta find a way to get the people out of the house that don't like horror so I can sit alone and watch it in the dark.
And then be stressed out because you're watching horror alone in the dark.
But there's nothing more scary than the way the real world works. It, for me, well, that's all right. So obviously, like, there's an entitled element here, but there's also some scary elements of the way the real world works. So any escapism I can gather is great, whether it's horror or not horror.
It's like, let's watch these people going through even worse shit that's currently going on. Like, and that's the whole thing about movies too, is just that escapism. I've never thought about the escapism of horror, it's funny because when I think about horror, and because I didn't watch horror movies at all up until, I don't know, maybe the past like 5 years or so, I wasn't really into it at all. I don't know, a lot of it I would say, oh, I don't like, psychological things because they stress me out, but now I kind of like the stress that they give me. Like that weird feeling, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do think that there's a certain level here that's A, based on a very personal connection, and B, can sometimes be very unhealthy or come from an unhealthy place. I don't know. For me, there's elements of like stuff like The Shining in the book and horror like that, where to a certain so when I read The Shining, I see everything exactly from Danny Torrance's perspective. And in the book, he's 5 years old, and his father is a drunk, and the hotel is using him and his father to create these apparitions that are harmful. And so there's something very scary about that, especially from a 5-year-old's point of view. But I think there's also some personal connections that I make to that situation based on other people in my life that have been addicts, where it becomes so much more personal. And you can imagine being in that person's situation, right? Like, you can imagine being the kid in a house where the person in charge of them is completely unpredictable because of addiction. And so that is unfortunately something that ends up being very familiar. And so I think that's,
come on, trauma,
an unhealthy connection, right? Like, you feel somewhat at home or familiar with the situation of like, there's this unpredictable entity existing in my space, and I have to run or hide or
it's funny though
or...
It's funny though that you mentioned this, because it could be pulling on like from experiences that are familiar to you. Because what I was thinking was, when I talk about like the stress that I get from horror movies and liking it, in the same sense, it's still almost like in a controlled environment. Whereas like, at the end of it, it's done, it's over. And kind of like with what you're saying with, situations relating to trauma that maybe you or other people have dealt with in their life, where it's familiar, and it's like reliving a situation like that, but you're seeing it in a dramatized way that you're more in control of. Is horror therapeutic? I'm like,
okay, I think horror therapeutic is a term I might bring up to my therapist next time we meet. Like, I really think that's something that needs to be touched on.
I'd love to hear their thoughts on that.
They're gonna be like, your rate is now $150 an hour because you have a lot more work to do. Yeah, I think there's really something there that I don't know. I mean, I'm all about creating the personal connection, whether it's in Star Wars, which I have a specific definition. Everyone, I think, has a specific definition of what makes Star Wars special to them. And at some point, it ends up being a very personal connection. I love it because of the found family aspect, which also relates to this kind of unpredictable maybe addict influence situation that, you're waiting, you want to be that Luke Skywalker, you want to be that kid in The Last Starfighter, you want to be like
Broom Boy
to some extent, Broom Boy who's going to get the call to action, right? It's like, no, you have a greater thing to go and do. And so but then, I mean, obviously we mature also emotionally, and like found family becomes more and more of a connection. And there's a similar, as hard as it is to explain, there's a similar thing in horror where you connect to it in some way, but maybe you've moved on from it, but you can still recognize it and still like, I mean, I can appreciate the situation that 5-year-old Danny Torrance was in, and that's what draws me back to the book, and that's what like gives me goosebumps or makes me tear up at the same exact moments in that book now at 35 as I did when I was 16 when I read it for the first time, right? So it's all special, right? Everything we like is special, and don't let anybody tell you different. I don't know.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I think like personal connections to things are important, and also like make those things special to us, and it's what we're dealing with in Star Wars, right? People, some content creators saying this isn't Star Wars, not my Star Wars kind of thing, without kind of thinking about how other people interact with Star Wars, or what other people, the perspectives of other people, or the way that other people could potentially connect to Star Wars, and that it's all a personal connection. The only reason you feel like it's not your Star Wars is because
you just don't
not
connect
activating
with it.
this personal connection. And to think that you can't, to be there in that space and not think that, oh well, somebody else, this is activating a personal connection for somebody else, is something that I just can't understand. And I really don't think that the majority of them can understand it. It's just that they've made a brand on doing this, so they have to keep doing it. This is like way outside of, we've taken a big left turn here. But anyway, the personal connections, I think, are what are so important in Star Wars and horror. There, I brought it back to both things.
You see, this is why you have a podcast and why you host, because you can do that. I would just be like,
this is why I have a podcast, because I can cut out whatever whatever I say that I don't like.
I saw it in the chat. I think it was, Crystal asked, what was the worst horror movie that we've seen? I also, I think it was earlier up, I said, I saw Star Wars Sublate, and you may be able to scroll up and find it, had mentioned they didn't understand what movie we were saying when we were saying Hereditary, because of how it's said in our accent versus theirs. Or, I guess, in our language.
Do you want to try that?
And make a fool of myself, and
I'm gonna try it in a New Zealand or Australian accent.
I can only do Omega. The only time I can do that accent is when I'm making fun of Omega. I'd have to see it again. What? How did they put it in the chat?
I did see it in the parentheses.
Hereditary is, I think, how they had mentioned it, but that almost feels like an English, like European way of saying it, which is interesting. No, I'm not gonna do an offensive, really bad Australian or New Zealand accent, because I know on top of that, people from those places are also very specific on not saying they're from one over the other. And I'm not well versed on that, so I'm not even gonna attempt. I can do Omega, and that's about it. Oh my gosh. But I'm trying to think, worst horror movie. There's definitely been some that I've seen that I'm like, ugh, I never want to watch that again. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Because, I mean, like, in the moment after I watch it, I'm like, ugh. I was really disappointed with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No, I won't say that it was bad, because it wasn't a bad movie. I wasn't into it. Can you think of any that have just been bad?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the name of the movie was that one of my college roommates showed me 10 years ago, and it was horrible, and it was a gay movie, and there was...
You said it was a gay movie?
It was a gay horror zombie, like, I don't know how to explain it. It was really... Maybe it was Pieces. actually, I can't remember what it was, but it was.
If it was like one of those stereotypical like early 2000s, just like a gay ensemble type movie, then I imagine it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it's something like that. I can't remember what it was, but so there was that, and also can't remember what it was called, and I'm sorry for bringing it up without knowing what it was called.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Okay.
He also like got me to love Halloween and a bunch of other movies like that, but
well, don't slander my movie on
no
my
I
channel.
love, that's what I mean, like he had really, like, we watched Halloween, he turned me on to Halloween and all this other stuff, but there was this one, was it called Auto?
Star Wars Subway mentioned Repo the Genetic Opera, which,
yes.
Okay, I love Repo the Genetic Opera. However, something that was brought up to me by one of my friends was like, now that you like actually watch, or they were like, that movie, like it was billed as like a horror musical, like a horror rock musical, but like it's just bad. And I was like, well, I never knew it was supposed to be it was actually supposed to be horror. I've always seen it as very camp, and all the, I guess,
yes,
horror elements were camp. So to me, I just saw it as a campy musical that just like had goofy campy horror in it. I definitely understand people who went into it being like, I want a horror musical. This is not a horror musical. Do I think it's a horror musical? No. But I really like it as a musical. And even the music's not very good. Zydrate Anatomy is a bop. But some of the people in it, not the best singers. Speaking of, what's his name? Rupert...
Yeah,
Grint?
Giles, right?
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember what his actual name is. It's Rupert... No.
Well, Rupert Grint is the Harry Potter kid.
Oh, shit.
No? But Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer was in Repo, right?
Yes, and his name is Rupert in Buffy. Is it Anthony?
I don't remember, and I'm still trying to find this zombie movie. But anyway, yeah.
The guy from Buffy, yes.
This same college roommate also turned me on to Repo, and I really like that. And also, like, they are the reason that I watched Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. We kind of went from Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog to Repo, and
yeah,
that was a great transition. They just had this one movie that was so, you know what?
Gay zombie movie.
I'm gonna put it in the Discord if I find it.
Please do, because I'm very curious. It's funny.
I haven't talked to this person in 8 years, but I might try to text them and be like, what was that? What's the name of that movie?
Hey, buddy. It's funny because the person that showed me Repo, it was the roommate of this guy that I met on Tinder, I think it was. Needless to say, the only thing that came out of that, I don't even know what I would call it. I would not call it like a relationship, because it definitely wasn't.
Interaction.
That interaction, yeah, that's a good way to put it, was Repo. So...
Oh, nice.
That was probably the best thing that came out of it in the long run. And so for that, I'm happy. Because without them, I think his name was John or Jonathan. Without Jonathan, I would not know that movie. And then we couldn't talk about it right now and me defend it.
You know, I feel very similarly. Well, because this person who introduced me to Repo also introduced me to Dr. Horrible, which after that became part of my personality.
Look at that. I love that.
I mean, I love Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. If people in the chat have never watched it, go and watch it.
I feel like I've heard music from it, but I don't think I've actually seen it.
It's so good and it's so fun and I love it so much. Highly recommend. But it's also, again, I think it's also why like that transition to Repo made me enjoy Repo, right? We had kind of this baseline established.
I mean, if, like I said, had I have gone into Repo being like, oh, this is gonna be horror and gore, but also singing, yeah, I'd be like, this fucking sucks. But, like, going into it as just it being a musical, it works. So I'm glad. Thank you, Jonathan, who I met on Tinder, who ghosted me.
It's appropriate for Halloween times.
Spooky. Not.
I also think, I think there's really interesting conversations to be had here about horror and camp and that whole kind of realm. And anyone who doesn't listen to Fear Queers should go and listen to Fear Queers.
Yeah, that's
also,
true.
Bye, Crystal.
Bye, Crystal. Thank you for hanging out. I know, I need to...
So, no VC, Crystal? Is that what you're saying?
Oh my god. Y'all gonna be the death of me. Y'all are gonna be the death of my sleep schedule. That's what it is. We all know it. Joey, you're gonna dip after this. You ain't doing no VC. I've supposedly...
I'm feeling pretty awake at the moment, and I've got a tray full of drinks here, and I haven't gotten any text messages telling me to shut up, so everything's pretty good.
Supposedly, my best friend wants to watch something, but I'm like, girl, you gotta work tomorrow. So I don't really know what she wants to watch. But I was thinking, I was like, damn, I kind of want to watch Halloween, surprise, surprise. But I was like, I kind of want to watch Halloween because it's Halloween. Why wouldn't I watch Halloween on Halloween? You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Is anybody else watching any movies specifically for Halloween tonight? Put it in the chat if so. What were you saying, Joey?
I think it was also on Crystal's episode of your live stream when you were talking about enjoying Halloween ends. Is that correct? What did you like? What did you like more, Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends?
Kills.
Is it called Halloween? Okay.
Yeah, no, Halloween Ends.
Same.
Rough. It was a rough point.
Relatively spoiler free, but Halloween Ends was the one with the like teenage boy, right?
Who while I thought he was hot, wasn't great for the story.
No. Yeah, I felt very similarly. But I really liked the way Halloween Kills ended.
That was a very cool ending.
Yeah. I was pretty disappointed with the way Halloween Ends went. But here we are. You know what?
Don't worry. They'll be rebooting it for TV soon if the rumors are true, which I'm like, oh god, I don't need horror TV show. Hey, did anybody watch the Chucky or Child's Play show? Because supposedly the main character was queer, like actively, like a queer teen boy, which like when do we ever get that kind of representation? But also it was actually good. Did anybody watch it? I did not.
I have not watched it, but this is also something that Chase and Beza over at Fear Queers have talked about really enjoying, and I hold them to be kind of horror aficionados. So I do think it's worth a watch, and I also loved those movies as a kid. So there's also that, but I think they both really like that series.
Doesn't it come on something weird though? Like
yeah, I don't if it's FX or Showtime or something like that.
No, I feel like it's something not even like one of those main ones. Or maybe it's like Cinemax or something.
Chiller.
Do you mean Shudder?
Is Chiller not a thing anymore?
I have no idea. I know about Shudder because Dragula comes on Shudder, which Dragula started tonight. So for anybody that likes drag that's not mainstream RuPaul's Drag Race and you want something a little more filthy and glamorous and horror and drag, watch Dragula. Season 5 just started today. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm looking very forward to it.
I just looked up Chiller, and this is relatively embarrassing. It launched and died in 2017, according to Wikipedia.
Rest in peace.
But also, has anyone watched the Interview with the Vampire series?
I've heard that's good, but I confuse it. Aren't there tons of like vampire things? There's like What We Do in the Shadows, Interview with a Vampire, and aren't they all like goofy or something?
What We Do in the Shadows is very goofy, but also extremely simultaneously somewhat serious, I think, and heartwarming and accessible. I don't know. There's a lot of positivity surrounding it, I think. And What We Do in the Interview with the Vampire, I think, is maybe less silly, but so friggin' good. Just watch it. Just watch it.
I will just add it to my ever-growing list of things to watch. Right after Young Jedi Adventures.
Very different. Don't watch it right after Young Jedi Adventures.
I might need a palate cleanser because I don't know how into Young Jedi Adventures I'm going to be. I like the animation. The animation I am into. So, we'll see. I'm trying to think if there's... We haven't even talked about Buffy. We haven't talked about Buffy.
We haven't even talked about Buffy.
Who are we? Honestly, though... Where
are you at? Where are you at?
Oh God, what happened? Buffy and Spike. Buffy has finally decided that she likes him. They've been hooking up, but she's not super happy about it. She doesn't want to label it. Dawn's mad because she's always at Spike's. I'm in that era. I'm trying to remember. Willow's addicted to magic, so she's clean now, which I think is kind of the dumbest storyline ever. It's very
interesting.
It's very dramatized, I feel like.
Yeah,
her and Tara have not gotten back together yet, but Buffy thought she was wrong, but Tara was like, nope, came back normal.
Yeah, there's some really...
This is a long piece.
There's some stuff that I don't really like about Willow's journey coming up after what you're describing, but I do think the addiction... Alright, we keep going back to addiction. But I do think the representation of addiction of Willow, she leaves Dawn in the super magic guys waiting.
The magic trap house.
There to get high, right? That's I hit the mic like a noob, but that's very... There's something very real about that, right?
Yeah.
So that's all, again, that personal connection stuff, but there's so much that I really love about that show.
I mean,
including Spike. Okay, here's a couple of things that I don't think I've ever talked about on KRYPTON to Alderaan, and I've never admitted to a recording of any kind, so this will be on the internet forever.
Hell yeah.
But I had both a cardboard cutout, the full-size cardboard cutout.
Yes.
Of Spike, and also I at one point for several years bleached my hair and spiked it.
Ooh,
I was a big Spike fan.
I love that.
Huge fan of Spike.
I don't know what it is, because one of my friend's dads was really into Angel, and I'm like, what is up with the vampires in Buffy and the straights, the male vampire characters in the straights? You would let me tell you though, my best friend and I both have been remember when Angel was being all he wanted to be bad again, and Spike and Drew were bad? still, and they were like being bad together. The sexual chemistry between the three of them, I was taken aback. I was like, are they gonna hook up, the three of them? Like, what?
Yeah.
That was very interesting. But I would kill to see your platinum blonde spiked hair era. Literally,
sure
Spike.
But yeah, I also, I think Buffy was something else. Buffy,
I mean, it gave queer representation when it was not popular.
Yes, exactly. And it brought a lot of people in, right? It did that. It like brought queer representation on screen when it also had a following. Like,
yeah.
It sort of shined a spotlight on stuff, which, I mean, A, that stuff didn't exist on screen back then, and B, it's hard to think that anyone with popularity would do something like that, because they were also I don't know, they're all so homophobic, right, that they don't want to show that stuff. So there was something very special about Buffy at the time.
For sure.
Something that I think this is also why like What We Do in the Shadows and Interview with the Vampire.
Not Buffy invented gay people.
No. But there's something like I don't know, there's something very special about all of these things.
Who was it? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that had a gay character? There was other like 90s shows like that where they brought in like a gay character. I was gonna say Golden Girls, but Golden Girls was just gay as fuck to begin with, so.
Yeah.
Which, funny enough, I loved Golden Girls as a kid, and that should have been telling.
Oh man. All right, you got me thinking about Golden Girls. But also there was this, I don't know. I mean, this is also, I think, something that that is talked about a lot, but there was a non-tropey way to do this when we talk about like inclusivity and stuff, and we go to Will and Grace, which was very important, which was like a good and I think like important show, and there were different representations of queer people on the show, and how you could be Will and you could be like just Jack, right? There were different realities, there were different representations of people
instead of like the token gay.
Exactly. And so, but that's, I think it means something that Buffy was able to do that without having to say like, this is one version and this is another version, right? It made all of the characters dynamic, it made all of the characters deep, and it didn't like, it didn't say, oh, this character is this because they're straight, and oh, this character is this because they're gay. It was just a coming of age story, and
do you remember?
It wasn't tropey, right? It wasn't like.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. Like, I'm speaking from like my personal perspective. But
I mean, I didn't think it was.
Shows very special to me.
No, I completely agree, because like you had mentioned, it wasn't like Willow started as a queer character. I mean, she might have, in the writer whose name I'm not going to mention because he's a piece of shit.
We can't, like, that takes away from all of the points that I'm trying to make about it being something special, I think, right? Like, Owl House, if anybody's watched Owl House, it's a show. It's kind of also a spooky show that does this very well. I don't know. It just, like, represents human beings.
I mean, that's so important. And like,
yeah,
with Willow, she wasn't brought in as the token gay character. She just happened to find a female love interest, or she just found a female who she happened to be like, oh, I kind of like this girl. And then I think one of my favorite realizations of hers in the show was, I don't remember exactly what happens, but like there's like bad versions of Willow and Xander, and Willow has an interaction with her bad version, and she says something, and then she's like, and I think I'm kind of gay. And it's so funny because she's talking about like the bad version of her, and I just love that she's like, yeah, she's kind of like this, and I think she's also gay. And I'm like, oh, here's foreshadowing, because I already knew. Like, I already knew Willow eventually had a girlfriend. But...
yeah.
What the fuck?
I really love Willow. I really love that show. I also really love it when Willow goes... oh, never mind. We won't spoil.
I already kind of know what you're talking about, but...
would you catch up? Would you just watch it? Just sit down and watch more of it.
Why are these pieces not... wait. Hold on, what is different about these? There we go. Okay. I'm building this
vampire stuff. Vampire stuff is also just so good. It's just always good. And I don't know. There's something very special there, I think. Or also something that was always very inclusive. I don't know.
Something of it's supernatural. It's supernatural shit. Like, even I watched Sabrina the Teenage Witch as a kid, and I just watched a video on YouTube about that show and how like the show is like the setup is good, but like Sabrina herself is not a good character, which is kind of true when you listen and they break it down. But what I'm getting at is like they had RuPaul on there, and RuPaul was like a magical person, and their magical thing was they could transform into a man and a woman. So of course, you know, it would be regular RuPaul out of drag and then Ru in drag. But it's just like, this is weird. I'm like, were these 90s shows like more inclusive without the hoo-ha, as you would say, than it is now?
Good stuff. Hoo-ha. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point that might deserve some reflection. But I think also like the new Sabrina show.
That was good. Well, the last season was questionable. The first season was really good though, and we had I don't remember if he was just trans man or trans mask, but I don't remember what his name was. But that was a cool character arc, and then one that we don't really ever get to see.
Yeah.
I think the actor is trans mask or non-binary, but in the show they were just playing a trans man. Oh, this is a confusing piece. What the hell am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah, I have also talked to Beza from Fear Queers.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend. Please go listen to their podcast. But on KRYPTON to Alderaan, a couple of years ago, Beza was on, and I was having a conversation with them about horror and, you know, queer representation in horror and camp, and how it, like, the idea that maybe horror has been the most inclusive genre to that kind of stuff, and sort of the pros the good parts and the bad parts about that, but like how that has become an identity, which is why they started Fear Queers, right? Like, that has become.
No, there's definitely something there. I completely agree.
And campiness and all that stuff, and you know the influence, obviously the influence of stuff like Rocky Horror Picture Show and stuff like that specifically comes out this time of year.
Oh, I love Rocky Horror.
Horror is important. I think that's like the bottom line, right? I think that's like what Beza and I had concluded, or that was the thesis of the conversation, but how important horror is.
I mean, we kind of touched on it together too. Just talking about like, is horror therapeutic?
Yeah, in many ways. In many.
I'm trying
on many levels.
I'm trying to power through this because I want to get it done, but it's all these little, like, if you look at the screen, it's all these like little pieces that I have to get through, and I'm like, ugh. I want to get it done, but I'm like, I got so frustrated with those missing pieces.
We've been distracted a bunch.
Well,
with conversations about spooky stuff, spooky and naughty.
Why do I always come up with the dumbest shit when we are doing something together? First it was Mon Mothma. Now it's just spooky and naughty. Oh my god.
Tell you what, I've typed some stuff in Google tonight that the algorithm's gonna have a fun time with in the future.
So, are you gonna watch? Did you watch any kind of scary movie today? Are you gonna watch one when we finish before bed?
I don't know. Are we gonna watch? Am I gonna watch one when we finish? Are we gonna do a VC? Austin is one of 2 people left in the chat. So
Austin's always trying to do a VC. They're always.
What we got going on?
They're always down to do a VC. Well,
what do you think, Austin? Are we talking Scotty into doing a VC? I still haven't gotten any text messages about shutting up, so.
Oh shit.
I think everything's fine.
Well, what I'm probably gonna do is I'm probably gonna end it here because I just have these little tiny pieces, and I don't want to.
Everyone has left us, honestly. No one has heard our diatribe about representation, queer representation in horror and stuff like that.
That's okay. The algorithm will make sure that the people do. Fingers crossed. Not Austin in the chat. Let's do it.
Austin's been meaning to speak with me. That's as enticing as it is ominous.
You're in trouble. What the fuck? Why can't I figure this shit out?
You've got it. You're just missing a piece. Lego's probably gonna have to send you a piece.
I'm not missing a piece. I keep putting this piece on wrong. Okay, so this is supposed to.
You know what? Also, I really appreciate being able to come on being invited on a live stream in the first place. So thank you, Scotty.
Of course.
As a way to, we're working towards the end of this, but also like these conversations. I love having these conversations. I love having conversations about horror on sort of every level, on like what it means to me and what it could mean to other people and what it could mean, what it has meant to the broader like world. So it's always awesome. And I think I don't have like I've said, I don't have a lot of people that watch horror in my life, but I do think it's super important. Like it's like an inclusive, accessible genre that's, I think, ahead of its time, let's say.
Honestly, you were not wrong. We could definitely consider horror ahead of its time. What the fuck?
It's also clear for anyone who doesn't know how podcasting or YouTube casting or live streams work. Scotty really doesn't know what I just said. They just know to agree. in order to maintain the conversation. So they're focused more on the Lego and less on what I'm saying, and that's absolutely fine. I just like a peek behind the curtains and
You cannot call me out like that. I'm not even kidding. I was paying attention when you said it, but if you asked me to repeat what you just said, I am gonna die.
Okay, wait. I have a list. I actually have a list here. Hold on. Like, there's 3 people watching. I think one of them is me and one of them is you and one of them is Austin. And that's probably the thing. But I have a list. Okay, ready? Star Wars scary stuff. I made a tiered list, Scotty.
What?
Especially for you. Knowing that we'd have this.
You're just bringing this up now?
Right? Because, listen, if I were doing a podcast, I would take this chunk of conversation and put it at the beginning, but we're doing a live stream. Here we are. So, Andrew, thank you for sticking around. Here's my list. You're all interested. Okay.
Hell yeah.
Spooky stuff in Star Wars. Number 1, the Nameless / the Leveler from the High Republic. Y'all.
That's the most scary? Your scariest?
Most scary.
Okay.
Second, Zillow Beast episode from The Bad Batch season 2.
Good choice.
Let's be honest. The torture of Bix.
Yeah.
In Andor is
terrifying.
Or just when you see the reaction of her when the thing is going on her head, that's horror in a nutshell. And then we have that weird robot thing from Mandalorian.
Thank you. I feel validated.
That never gets explained. Yes. Thank you for making it part of your video.
You're welcome.
Because I had a whole theory video about it, and yeah, never gets explained. Super scary. The Rise of Skywalker is on the list too. Thank you, Austin, for ruining my joke early on. And Maul.
Spider Maul
is on the list, and then the Sun from Mortis. I think the Sun.
Oh.
Top tier horror in those episodes. Sam Witwer. Anything Sam Witwer voices, or anything Sam Witwer is a part of, is horror related. Whether it's Maul, whether it's Galen Merrick, whether it's the Sun, or whether it's Doomsday from Smallville, or anything he's done.
Taking it back.
Horror related, Sam Witwer is the GOAT.
Ooh, when I always like this deep cut when he played Mr. Hyde in Once Upon a Time. He was the bad one. He was the bad one, and he looked really hot. But you're kind of onto something here.
I think we can go into should we have started the stream this way with a Once Upon a Time deep dive here? The Evil Queen.
Iconic.
On multiple levels. Rumpelstiltskin.
Ugh, fucking Rumpelstiltskin. He got so boring, though.
Sam Witwer, yeah, but started real strong. Loved every minute of it.
I loved Regina when she was evil.
Yeah, Regina was the GOAT. That's my list. That's my list of Star Wars spooky stuff. I hope I did good. I hope I did good on your live stream, Scotty.
No, you did great. I really enjoyed that list. And I think, like you said, in the mindset of actually making content, I think that is a really good place to end it. So I'm going to put these last few pieces on off screen because y'all don't want to watch me put all these little minuscule pieces on. And my eyes are burning from wiping off makeup twice and this bright ass light shining in my face. So Joey, for those who don't feel like reading the description, where can everybody find you and your podcast?
Everyone can find me at KRYPTON to ALDERAAN. Search any social media for KRYPTON to ALDERAAN. That's ALDERAAN.
I always have to remind myself of the 2 A's. It always throws me off.
on any social media or on any platform that you find podcasts. We've been doing really well on YouTube lately, so that's really where I've been focusing our content. So if you could subscribe to us on YouTube, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm mostly on Instagram. I'm really focusing on YouTube and Instagram. So that's the main thing. KRYPTON 2 Alderaan. And we'll have an episode, our 100th episode, next week. Stay tuned for that.
We're going to hold you to it, so it better be out.
No one better cancel for recording on Thursday.
As everybody is aware, you can find me at Scotty Holiday SW on basically every social media site that's popular right now, because that's the world that we live in. If you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe. Joey, as always, it was wonderful speaking with you. Thank you to everybody who is in the chat hanging out. Have a happy Halloween, and may the force be with you.
Happy Halloween, everybody.